lot of years. I don't know what year I started. I think the second year of vExpert, because I didn't apply the first one.
So that'd make you an 8-year.
Is it 8?
8 years.
Okay, so 8 years then. I am the field CTO in Nexenta during my day job, but tend to try to avoid that if I can do anything else that has an engine and wheels that will go fast. So, but to get us going, we'll do some intros. The first one probably doesn't need very much introduction, I have a feeling, but Scott, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. So I'm Scott Lowe. I work for VMware, officially on the NSX team, but I've been spending most of my time recently working on VMware Cloud Services, which was announced this morning. So that's exciting. I've been writing blog.scottlowe.org for 12 years, 9-year vExpert, early VCDX and early VCDX NV. So that's me.
Tom Cronin. I work for M&T Bank out of Buffalo, New York. I've been a vExpert for 9 years and a vMug leader since 2005.
Sweet.
With the Buffalo vMug. Our UserCon's coming up in October with us, Syracuse and Rochester. So if anybody's out that way, especially if you're Canadian, we now made it so you can come across the border. We're going to do a vBeers the night before, so you can stay overnight and get better. You can get better duty free going back because you can get your 24 hours in. Those are all my ideas, by the way. So, and I've been coming to VMworld for 10 years.
I'm still confused why you want Canadians there. Oh, sorry.
In Buffalo. Hey,
how often do you get Canadian in this crowd?
I will tell you why. I will tell you why. They saved the malls in Buffalo when the dollar was the other way.
Okay.
So we like them. They spend money.
Besides, they're incredibly polite. So
they are.
That's true. They're much nicer than us. Apparently, that was pretty clear right there. Michael.
So I'm Michael White, and I am a Canadian. So there's 3.
Yeah, I did that one too. That was too easy to just let that one keep going.
I'm a product manager for Veeam. And lately, I've been spending all my time on the other side of what Scott's been doing, working on our products inside the VMware Cloud on AWS. Very exciting stuff. I've been a vExpert for longer than I can remember, and I've been blogging for a long time as well. Can't remember when I started that either. I think it was 2007 maybe, but I'm not sure. But hopefully, we're going to keep you entertained and educated as we chit-chat and socialize. But also, feel free to interrupt and say what's important, like, are you sure that's true, for example?
Yeah, call them out. It's fine. Heckle. Don't throw things. That's not nice.
Because we will throw them back.
Just be careful. We have the microphones.
This is true. And we know your Twitter handles. So I think I always like to try to kick it off with trying to just general impression of the show, whether it is maybe not getting quite into like the solutions exchange yet, but just things you've seen so far. There's always kind of a feel to a show when you get there. I know coming out here, as I was watching my Facebook feed, which I realized I have way too many people I know from work on my Facebook feed, and y'all check in at way too many airports. There wasn't a lot of excitement from people that have been here for many, many years. Although, last night I'm sitting at VM Underground and I'm talking to Ryan, and it was his first VMworld. And literally a couple were like, oh, that's adorable. But what do you think of the kind of the feel of the show so far?
So I'm not super thrilled it's back in Vegas again. Not my favorite place to be.
How many of you guys really like Vegas? How many of you absolutely hate Vegas?
Yes. See, there you go.
Yeah,
all right, so
I'm with them.
So I think maybe part of it is the fact that we're back in Vegas again, right? But I actually felt like the show was, or the energy around the show was a little more lively this year than last year. I mean, last year it felt kind of, I don't know, felt kind of down, and this year it feels a little more up. That's of course, absolutely subjective, but that's just my initial impression.
How much do you think?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I think this year there was a little more energy. Now that could be because this is the first year I've brought like 9 people from work. That's cool. we usually don't bring that many people, and there's a whole bunch. We brought one person who she started last Monday, and we brought her to the show. So
why did you bring so many people? Why this show to bring so many people to?
We're in the middle of doing a whole bunch of changes. We're looking at microsegmentation. There's a whole bunch of things we're looking at. So we brought our operations people. We brought a couple executives. So it's a big change.
Okay.
In our culture. So I don't know if I'm thinking there's more energy because they're so cute, because a lot of them have never been here.
It's adorable.
It's adorable. It is adorable when they're new. I kind of let
You've
him.
never seen a big show, and this isn't
Yes.
even a big show.
Yes, like let them loose. I let them loose in Solutions Exchange yesterday and let them get lost. And it was just cute to watch them wander around.
Well, last time we saw each other was in New Orleans at Vmware, so we got to see that one, and then we get here. How do you kind of feel the difference in the different shows?
Well, Vmware had what, 1,400 people? So it's a lot smaller, but actually what it really means to me is not just the smaller, you get to talk to more people. Here, everybody's in a rush.
Mm-hmm.
But back to your original point about what I think of this, I flew down here on an airplane that was half filled with people coming down for that big fight, and they were drinking and arguing and whatnot in the back of the airplane. Then about the next...
Did you fly Aer Lingus?
No, Air Canada, interestingly
Almost
enough.
the same thing.
But then the next third was all women coming down for a wedding, and then all around
A third
me,
of a plane was women for one wedding?
about 28, 29.
Wow.
It was a small airplane, and then all the rest of the people around me were for a stag. So I was the only person coming here. Whereas last year, I bet you there was 5 or 6 people that I personally knew on the airplane. So that worried me. But then as I came in on Saturday to look around, I saw more people than usual setting things up. I saw more people talking to each other excited. I saw more people taking pictures. So that then started me thinking this is going to be just a little bit different because of that.
So it seems like we've got a reasonably positive attitude then for the most part. For people watching, people here, what's the thing that you've been most looking forward to, kind of like, oh, this is something I want to really make sure I dig into or I talk to somebody or look at? Is there something for any of you that you really want to make sure you hit on while you're here?
Well, I mean, it's still different for me because I'm at VMware, so I kind of know what's coming, right?
But you don't know what a vendor's doing. Maybe it's a vendor thing.
Yeah, then it's true. I haven't heard that much from the vendors because honestly, I've been buried under what we've been doing. But
and he's been on a plane. If you want to reach him, his number is 1-800-SKY.
I should just set my home address to 21D.
I always say gate 32 at Reagan Airport.
That finds, yeah, that works too. I mean, it's difficult for me, but I mean, there were some good announcements today, and we have more.
We're gonna get into those
tomorrow. Yeah, we'll get into that. But I mean, it's been good so far.
Okay,
I like it.
Anything specific for you guys that you definitely want to see? I know you got some announcements, so you've been excited on getting some of your stuff out.
We're not talking about that yet, but there's more and more.
I tried, guys. I tried.
Well, that's what I thought you were thinking. But I'm excited about, there's more things you can do in automation now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as one example that I'm really excited about is tonight we have a hackathon.
Yep.
And so I'm a participant again. So that's just amazing stuff. But even aside from that, there's actually more things out there, more opportunities this event to learn about automation. So it might be PowerShell stuff or PowerCLI. It might be Python even. It might be something else. And there's just more opportunity for learning in that space. And that's what I'm excited about.
We were sitting on, there was a panel yesterday at Opening Acts that Cody was on. And they asked him, like, how have you grown your career? And he goes, well, I do a lot less PowerShell and more Python now.
Yeah.
Like, that's your advice? Do more Python. That's all Cody gave anybody.
It's Cody.
Yeah.
I came out here mostly, I was going to dig more into NSX, but we're a TAM customer, so we went to TAM Day yesterday. And when they do the roundtables, I actually, and this is not a shameless plug for Scott, but I sat at his demo on the vCloud, on the AWS stuff, and all of a sudden now it's like, oh, wait a minute, I need to dig into that. So I think this may be one of those shows where I'm going to come away with something completely different than I've thought I was going to come here with.
And that's not a bad thing.
No,
right?
it's not
That's
at all.
a good thing.
Yeah.
I knew it, the AWS was one of the things I knew I needed to dig into
Yeah.
a little bit when I got here for sure. It was, and I do think while the sessions, sometimes maybe it's just from doing it long enough that I don't find as much value in a lot of the sessions anymore. But finding the time on the certain topics to pull out, I think have been nice.
Yeah.
There's always one very important thing about the sessions that you should never forget, and you probably don't, is it gives you a name. And so even if you don't get to the session, you now have a name that maybe you can start talking with.
And there's a chance you may find that person wandering around here anyway, even if you don't make their session.
That's true.
And they're doing something in this event that I believe is new, that somewhere you can sit in a chair, put on some headphones, and listen to that day's
It's upstairs. I saw
Yeah,
it.
the replay.
Session rerun
cool.
bar or something like that.
Replay bar.
That,
It is
replay bar, something like
replay
that.
bar.
That's useful.
It's up on the second floor, over near Mandalay,
'Cause there
near
are-
the Mandalay.
I do find when the few
ballrooms.
times where I'm like, there's sessions I really want to see, it's always that there's 3 of them at the exact same time.
Yes.
And then I don't want to go to a session for the next 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's just that time slot that ends up being ones I want to see.
Right.
Or you get here and you get invited to 5 different vendor things or 5 different, and you can't make your session.
Right.
Or you have to blow off the vendor.
Yeah.
You have to make
And
a
you
choice.
can't keep doing everything.
Right.
With that, okay, so we've all done this a few times. For people those new people, we've interesting seen quite a few, I think, newer people at this one this year than more than normal, I think, more in the last couple of years.
It's noticeable is what surprised me.
Yeah, like I've ever seen it. And I wasn't even over here yesterday because I spent most of the time over at Opening Acts and VM Underground, so I didn't even get over to the floor yesterday. But what would you tell those people on kind of how to get the balance? Because a lot of times, I know the first VMworld I came to, I think I must have gone to 30 sessions and did not really do the other things. And I very quickly learned that was not the value of being here all the time.
No, not at
How do you
all.
strike that balance?
Well, I really like what Michael said. You know, you can go into the content catalog and you can say, I really like this session or this topic or this track, and you've got some names there and you can try and track them down on social media or whatever the case may be. Maybe they're doing a Meet the Expert session or something like that, but so that's really cool. If you're a Vmware Advantage subscriber, you get access to the VMworld content, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you do.
So, you know, like you don't have to run yourself crazy trying to get to all the content, because then you can go back later and you can see recorded sessions and that kind of stuff, which is nice. So I mean, I would say just, you know, that there are things that you can do remotely, like watch content, listen to content, and there are things you can't do remotely, which is meet with people
Put a face to a name.
put a face to a name, or just get names and try and figure out, you know, what it is that I need to learn, because sometimes you don't even know what you don't know, right? So I would say take advantage of this time here to do that, and then leverage your time elsewhere through other venues to do, you know, what you need to do. So
Exactly. There's guys that are important to my career that I met in 2006 in LA that I just talk to all the time now, and I only met them because I skipped a session. You know, because I knew that session would
To be
come
clear,
up
we're
later.
not advocating skip all the sessions.
No.
no,
But if you
in
but don't
balance,
miss
in
an
moderation.
opportunity.
Don't be
Don't
strict
miss
about
an
you
op-
have to make every single one of them.
Don't miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
No, if your boss is going to expect you to write up something on NSX, go to your NSX sessions. If he's going to expect a
Or
report,
just talk to Scott.
or come see us. We'll give you the crib notes. You know, but don't miss an opportunity to network with people, because that's the value I've gotten out of it all the times I've gone.
Sitting here.
So I have a couple of different things to say that have been very powerful and helpful for me. I didn't used to be a public speaker, and I didn't like being on a stage, and I didn't like meeting people. It was hard. So what I did, and I still know some of these people, is when I was having lunch, I never ever sat with somebody I knew. I sat at a table that had people that I didn't know, and then I forced myself to say hello, and you'd be amazed. I now return that favor. The other day, I actually drew somebody a little network diagram to help them solve a problem on a napkin. And that was because they said hello to me, and we chatted. So that's one thing. Take advantage of your lunches or your dinners and talk to the people around you. Even after a drink, it gets easier and you can learn good stuff. The second thing is, and this is really important because I've been to almost every single VMworld, so I've actually learned some good stuff. One thing that I would suggest is take care of yourself so that you can last longer.
Yeah.
That means drink water. It means eat a little bit healthy whenever you can. And it means sometimes take a nap. But take care of yourself so that you can actually go to those sessions or chat with those people. The last thing I'll mention is the bookstore has some really good stuff in it. It also has some unmitigated crap too. So actually look at the book, open it up, and ask the guy next to you. In fact, Scott here will always answer your questions, and I do as well, even on Twitter or whatever, and you can make sure you get the book that actually is the one that you need.
Yeah.
And then get them to ship it home. It's easy.
It's amazing the amount of openness from the guys that especially that are vExperts.
Sure.
Just stick your hand. If you see a guy with a vExpert badge on, stick your hand out. Say something. He'll probably help you with whatever it is.
There's a little sticker on the
Little
bottom.
sticker.
Ah, cool.
So there were a limited
Corey has
number of
them.
them, so they may have run out.
Good. I
But
agree.
Infinio
I mean,
has nice
I think people need to remember it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it comes down to. So, digging in a little bit more now. So, Solutions Exchange. Let's dig into that a little bit. It's an interesting. I'm going to be the non-political one here for a minute. The way they set this up and then managed to put little teeny pods for registration seems like they're filling space. However, the Solutions Exchange area, you guys seem to think felt a little bit bigger, and actually with more vendors.
Yeah, I mean, when I came over for the welcome reception last night, and I was wandering around, and I first thought it was just this one part of that hall, and then I realized there was this whole other part of the hall behind it, and I was like, wow, that's really big, and it wasn't wider aisles, right? I mean, they might be, I don't know, I don't measure them, but it didn't seem noticeably wider. I mean, but they were so crowded, right? So it felt bigger, felt like there were more vendors there.
Is it more vendors or vendors doing bigger spaces?
There's probably a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
I mean, there's like a Rubrik has like a basketball thing, which obviously that takes up a lot of space, right? But
That's actually a good point. It just clicked in my head. There's actually a few different things like that. Veeam, as an example, has a coffee bar somewhere else.
Yeah, a couple
and
doubles.
then Rubrik has the basketball court, and I've seen a few other things like that. So I told you earlier, I believe it is quite a bit bigger, but also there's a little more repeated use of space that maybe is a part of it.
But like I was saying when we were talking before we started, I like the redesign of the VMware booth. I like it being at the back. I really like the way they set it up where it's, banking, retail, healthcare, and that's where they have their demos. Then they put all the Ask the Expert stuff off to the side, and they did longer rows. But I think it's actually using less space than that big monolithic rug-covered space they've always used. So it's not taking up as much space. So I think there are more people. It seems to be that there's more new vendors in there that I don't remember from last year.
Were there any new ones that jumped out?
A couple that I want to go back and see because they had interesting booths at Infinia,
Okay.
which I got confused because I was looking for Infinio.
Right, yeah.
And Infinia's right there, which that was good part on theirs. That's good on their placement. But yeah, there's a couple that I want. There's a few that I definitely want to go back and see what they're doing. I only went to Cohesive to pick up my vExpert gift. I want to actually go and dig through their stuff.
Just pick up one before you go to Rubrik, and don't go to Rubrik and then to Cohesive. They don't like that.
Are you speaking from personal experience?
It's a tough crowd.
But I like doing that. I'm disruptive.
I mean, I kind of enjoy taking a Cohesive backpack right into Rubrik, but it's just me. I'm kind of a jackass.
So there isn't too many new ones that I've been looking for because I've been buried in a few things lately. But one booth I'm going to go back to is High Trust. They purchased a company I used to work for called Data Gravity, and they've got a really interesting way of melding those technologies that I want to get a demo of. But that's probably the only newish one that I can think of.
So I think, like, High Trust is one of those ones too. Like, when you're looking, you said the vExpert, you see him, go talk to him. Like, Vic will give you a full rundown. Vic Camacho will give you the longest rundown you can possibly hear about High Trust.
Yeah.
Except he's still sleeping, so right now he's not doing that. But the other guys are.
I do have to go back to, and I cannot pronounce the name, and this is the first thing I want to ask him is Uilia.
Wheela.
Wheela. See, I knew I was going to get it wrong.
Yeah, that's an interesting
It
one
is
too, I think.
Hawaiian for thunder? Is that right? Or lightning?
I thought it
Anybody
was
know?
Sky.
I have a
It's
demo.
Hawaiian for
Yeah.
something like that, apparently. I heard
I have
the
a
other day.
scheduled demo with them, and I want to go see them.
They've spent a lot of time really pushing the community.
Yeah.
They were great sponsors for Underground, for vBrownBag, for vRockstar as well. So they've really tried to push, and they're doing a ton of vMugs
Yes.
as well. They're really trying to get in there.
It's a lot of what I do is I go and I look for the ones that are vMug sponsors so I can line up.
Yeah,
I can line people up for vMugs.
of course. Okay, so now we had some announcements this morning. You said both of you have been working a bit with the AWS stuff, a little
Right.
bit. As I'm watching the keynote, not having spent a lot of time on that, seemed very heavy networking, a good bit of security there at the end. I'm not going to get into the pandering of bringing the Red Cross out for a 2.5-minute keynote that I don't know whether was planned way ahead of time or not.
Now that you haven't.
Could be either way. Not going to say.
Not going to mention that.
I mean, we're not going to go into that though.
Now that we haven't said it.
The network and the security side, VMware has done we're going to go after Microsoft. Oh, we're going to go after now we're going to partner with Amazon. We're not going to go after Amazon. Are they going after Cisco?
I don't think so. Look, like I've been in the NSX space long enough, right? That in 2013, after the Nicira acquisition and we rolled out NSX, if we were going to go after Cisco, that's when we would have done it. Right?
Did they have enough in Nicira to do it at that point?
I mean, it's
and
NSX.
was the market ready for it?
The market wasn't ready for it, right? But Cisco didn't have a competing product. They weren't ready, so that would have been the time to really go on the offensive. But the reality is, like, what Cisco's doing, and not just Cisco, but in all the rest of the hardware vendors, Arista, Juniper, whatever, right? It's complementary to what we're layering on top with NSX, right? I mean, the reality is if you want some sort of like consistent operational model with security and networking across your on-premises stuff and public cloud, it can't be done with a piece of software that's tied to hardware. I mean, just like, you're not going to go tell Amazon, I want to run this switch in your VPC. Nope, not going to happen. Right?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the sort of the great model that NSX has, as opposed to a lot of these SDN-related solutions that are tied to a hardware platform. So I don't see that at all. I mean, certainly one could look at the announcements and say that's what's happening. If you look at App Defense, it's really more around compute security than anything else, which is one of the new things they announced today. And then what we're doing with NSX is just an evolution of what we've been doing. So.
I have to agree. Being on the customer side, I have to agree, because I'm in the midst of that debate between Cisco and NSX in our data centers. I'm not on the telecom side, but I'm the one who gets pulled into all the meetings. So it really isn't a fight. It's not. For
you
really,
guys, is that where that decision's still being made? Is it a telecom group that's making that call still?
No, it's
or you guys having more impact now?
No, it's everybody. It's everybody. We brought the telecom guys out here 2 years ago. The last time we were in San Francisco, we brought them out, and the executive team really took care of the VP and really sold him. And they didn't sell him just showed him. And he all of a sudden, second day he was like, what's a good color for VMware? And I looked at him like, what? And he goes, I want to know what color Kool-Aid I'm drinking. Because he had already swung, So now we have the next guy who's doing the overall team is here. Right. And it's not really a debate between, Cisco has to be our underpinning, for the physical network. And then what you put on top of it, if you tie yourself to something, you're boxing yourself in at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think at all that they're targeting necessarily Cisco, but I think what they're doing is important for a different reason. The more successful VMware can be at putting NSX into people's environments means that there is an enormous amount of possibilities for the future. What I mean is, next time there's a malware, then they can enhance their implementation of NSX to do some microsegmentation. And then NSX can grow as the customer changes. So I like the idea of pushing more network, more security, because if you can get it in the door and people start using it, there's so many things that they can do in the future with it that are powerful and useful.
Especially like with the App Defense announcement, I'd love to see that take off, and I'd love to get my hands on it so that we can get rid of, the 15 agents that go on every end user piece of equipment. Get it down to 1 or 2 would be awesome.
Yep. So historically, I don't think most VMware admins have been networking guys.
In fact, they usually fight with the network guys.
Yep. So how much of a shift is that if NSX is going to be such a core underpinning? I mean, I think you said it is the core underpinning of our solutions, blah, blah, blah. It was one of some line like that.
The connective tissue.
Yes. If that's going to be the case, do all these VMware admins now need to go out and all of a sudden figure out how to become networking guys that have made a career out of being basically server guys?
Right. So I think the deeper question here is, how is the role of the IT professional changing, right? I think that one subset of what VMware vSphere admins need to do could be repeated across, what do networking people need to do? Because if they've spent their entire life copying and pasting from a CLI, the idea of API-driven models and overlays it's a whole new thing, right? The same could be going for storage admins. If we move to hyper-converged and this sort of thing, it's a different model, right? So I think there's a broader question there about the evolution of the IT professional. It's one of the reasons why I did the Full Stack Engineer podcast, or Full Stack Journey podcast, and pushing that, because I think it's just, we as a grassroots piece, we need to be pushing aside the boundaries and pushing aside the silos and just saying, I need to know what I need to know, and I don't want to be boxed into being a server guy or a network guy or a security guy or gal.
I think that goes back to is it telecom making a decision, or is it?
Well, I started out as the NOC manager before I went back into actual engineering, and so I had to know the networking better than some VMware admins probably did. But the thing that's interesting is once we started talking microsegmentation, the core engineer for telecom started taking VMware classes. He took install configure. He took NSX classes. And now it's kind of shifted out to where one of our storage guys is going to take install, configure, manage, so he can get a better idea of what's going on with vSAN. And it's kind of started that shift in our organization where IT has to know everything. Now, you have to be a full stack engineer in some way. It may be that your specialty is telecom, but you still have to know telecom and VMware, telecom and EMC.
Yep.
And that's what I'm seeing happening. Even with when I talk to customers at vMugs, I'm starting to see that happen a lot more.
I have to say it depends is the answer to your question, because I've seen customers like this one where things are changing and the skills are going a little differently. But I've seen other customers, and more of them, where they're going to stay server admins, and what's going to happen is they'll change a little bit, but a partner will come in, get NSX working, and then
hand it off.
Then they'll manage it from that point on, or they'll consume it, but it'll be mostly still server admins. So I think there's a flavor that fits most different kinds of customers that can be done.
And going off that, I also say our operations team has gotten larger.
Okay.
That takes that. Those are the guys that do the consumption. That's gotten larger over the same thing.
So we have to wrap it up. We're coming up on the end of this one for the day. So give me your kind of the way I almost always end this, your one tip of what somebody should do while they're here for a couple days or on the flight home to make sure that they get the most value out of VMworld.
The key topics that I would be looking at this thing, VMware Cloud Services, which includes VMware Cloud and AWS and all the rest of the SaaS offerings that were announced this morning, right? And what we're doing with NSX and Cloud Data Frameworks.
Gather as many names as you can. If you're not a vMug member, join the vMug and just get as much networking done as you can up on top of everything else.
And mine would be take an hour and spend it talking to booths that you've never talked to before. Explore the floor.
Find that new company that you didn't know.
I like that rhyme. Explore the floor.
Explore the floor.
Oh, that's good.
That should be a sticker next year.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. As usual, it was a lot of fun to stand up here and have a little bit of chat with you guys. Thank you guys for joining us and sitting in. We will be back tomorrow, and now we're going to go right into the rest of the vBrownBag schedule. Thanks, everybody.